Feedback by RQK. Chapter 7. Relapse. Mare had to put her quill down, but not before taking a mental note. 16 forms, 16 papers. That was how many she had managed to finish in a row. That was a record. One sugar cube corners cakes laid on the edge of her desk. She had only taken a single bite out of it, and that had been at the bakery. The hot steam had long since faded, and now the confection lay ready to snack and split open at any moment. Just the sight of it made her shudder. With a sigh, she stood up from her chair and pushed it off her desk, where it landed onto the trash bin where it belonged. The cakes would understand. Mare sighed toward the window and looked out past the edge of town. The fields at Sweet Apple Acres were still a barren ground, built in disorderly lumps that refused to be tamed. She squinted and imagined she could make out the faint shape of a large pony pulling a sleigh in the farthest corner. She turned her gaze downwards into the square below. The sun shone down on the grass just like on any other day, and yet the entire palette through her window appeared monotonic. The few ponies that passed through were equally so. The market had been much lower in attendance than usual as well, both from vendor and shopper alike. The fields and playgrounds, usually full of fillies and colts, sat empty. Her eyes drew to the ruins of Golden Oak's library. It still lay as it had from the skirmish that had destroyed it. She knew that the tree had been part of the town since before it was born, but even over the short years it had become undeniably attached to Twilight Sparkle's image. But now, that tree lay split down the middle, a former shell of what had once been, dead. Not far from there was a new tree, a crystal tree, sprang out of the ground. Today she had a special reason to frown at it. No flowers remained around the tree. Mare was surprised at how often she had been frowning lately. She wasn't the only one. She had noticed that every so often, every pony would stop and look at the castle above the town with crestfallen expressions. After all, she found it hard to forget when a remember towered over the rest of the town. She placed her hoof against the curtains. Her job was to know Ponyville in and out. She had been doing that for years. At the moment, she did not recognize what town lay beyond her window. Another pony laid a pocket compass onto the corner of a map, smoothing the paper out. He looked up through the eternally cried dirty glasses.
Miss Pinky,
He began with a deep-throated voice.
the place you're looking to go to is a little bit difficult to travel to.
The pink-haired pony frowned dramatically. But come on! There's artifacts I need to get. This is not how you archaeologists! Stone Obelisk took a brief glance at the thick mist over the crystal mountains behind him.
I might be willing to go with you. But then again, I am the lead expedition in my party. It says I will not separate from my students for no good reason. And besides,
He glanced back at her with a contemptuous scowl.
you're not even part of this research expedition. I can hardly believe you have found our camp.
Two younger unicorns, who had been examining a set of rocks over at a folding table nearby, glanced up at them. Pinkie Pie crossed her arms even tighter and stared into him. She puffed her cheeks so hard that her face turned red. The professor's eyes fluttered as the scowl grew wider. Finally, he sighed.
What did you say these objects were again?
Pinkie Pie immediately sprang up. These things are a part of a thing. It's a really big worldwide thing that seals a really scary thing behind the door. These stones are really powerful and also...
How do you know they exist?
He asked incredulously. Pinkie weirdly flayed their host. Because we have numbers and a whole bunch of other stuff on them. Stone Obvious grabbed a pocket watch out of his lapel and idly noted the time.
From a verifiable source?
Yep, we have Sunset Shimmer. The professor cocked an eyebrow.
That doesn't ring a bell.
She bonked him on the nose. And Princess Twilight Sparkle! Several heads turned up from books or poked out tents, all with curious and wide-eyed expressions. Whatever conversations that had been going on before were momentarily suspended. The professor himself had to take a step back to take it in.
That's a very verifiable source. I wonder how she's doing.
He paused to ponder his position a bit more, then nodded steadily.
Very well, Miss Planky. I'll entertain this.
Yippee! Piggy exclaimed, leaping into the air, before diving into a hug. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so happy. Stone Obelisk wriggled and writhed under her grasp, making all sorts of grunts and groans, which quickly descended on gasps and wheezes. Without warning, Piggy stepped back to where she had been before, smiling expectantly. The stallion quickly let off several gasping coughs, thumping madly at his chest. After a moment, he paused to catch his rhythm again, then straightened his lapel and brushed the dust off his collar.
Well, at any rate, there's this one issue that needs to be sorted out. You see, the area you wish me to take you is a little difficult to get to, and we'll have to work our way out to travel there.
Piggy raised her up into the air. Oh! Pick me! Let's all travel by paws! Stone Obelisk stepped in.
What? Travel by paws? How the one does even want to travel by?
Like that, silly! Piggy said. The explorer raised a bewildered eyebrow. He looked at the surrounding area and shook his head.
And here I thought you gone quiet.
The mayor groaned and cracked a neck. Are we there yet?
Nearly. There should be a cave over that ridge,
he explained as he started up the incline. Okie dokie dokie, she said. The higher up the ridge they climbed, the more she found herself fighting for air. While Stone took it in stride, Pinkie Pie felt herself grow heavier and heavier by the second. Eventually, she practically dragged her host through the dirt. I want to crawl there so bad, she thought. The hill eventually crested, and the spry professor nearly bounded to the apex. Slowly, amidst many heavy pants and breaths, Pinkie Pie caught up with him, and promptly collapsed into the dirt.
Ho, Pinkie!
He exclaimed, almost bursting at the seams.
We're almost there. Do not lose heart just yet.
The mayor squinted. She could make out the faint outline of a formation through the white ambient fog. The smallest grin pursed her lips. I just need a moment, she said as she reached into her tangle of a mane and procured a small, tiny flask. Quickly, she tipped it over, slipping the orange juice as it poured out. The professor smiled demurely. After a moment, Pinkie Pie replaced the flask and stood up. Well, thanks for getting me this far at least.
Yeah, but I'm curious, he said inquisitively. I'm assuming that you have a good idea what it'll appear like. But say we enter the cave and it's revealed that the cave doesn't descend far enough.
He cocked an eyebrow.
You did mention that these objects are typically found underground.
Tentatively, Pinkie Pie raised into her bag, pulled what looked like a small glass jar the size of a muffin. One then swirled a vortex of magical energy, coalescing to and fro. She had long abandoned the thought of trying to hear what it had to say. I think, she began, that's what these things are for. Spike took a whiff of the dark liquid, now inside the pitcher he carried in his claws. The thick and tantalizing aroma of cocoa swam through the baby dragon's nostrils. The batch was ready. Readying the tray, he pattered down the stairs. He saw Sunset simmer at the top, splayed down around the crystal ball. She rubbed a hoof across her face, but did nothing to dismiss the baggage under her eyes. Twilight Sparkle, meanwhile, flipped through several pages of the book. The very book she had received from a time-traveling Sunset Simmer. Pages upon pages of equations and figures and diagrams passed by with relative speed as she noted nothing of particular interest. A piece of chalk floated readily above her. Already she had used to note down the sections of the book that grabbed her attention, partly because some parts had not been clear. You want some coffee? Spike asked as he walked up, taking a cup of his claw and extending it in offering. The mare on the floor looked up from a frown. Thanks, she said, reaching out with her hoof and taking it from him. The dragon smiled before setting the tray out to the side. Taking his own cup, he laid down belly first in front of the ball as well, all without taking a simple sip. So, Spike began, it's just the coordinates and the parameters? Sunset nodded. That's right. These parameters are pretty straightforward, Twilight said. You just cross out the ones you don't want to do. Agreed? That sounds right, Sunset replied. We just don't know why there are so many to begin with. And we don't know what's going on with the coordinates. I mean, a lot of them are crossed out, so the same logic to apply. So why the X? Why the change in style? Spike huffed. Not to mention there's a whole bunch of those, right? Sunset scratched her head. Yes, I think that's impossible. So, Twilight said, now we have to figure out why I have it. Add that to our ever-growing list of contradictions. The Amber Mare thumped her head against the hard floor with a loud moan. Ugh! Why must everything go so wrong? Spike kicked his legs against the floor. While he had faith that Twilight could pull it off. No, that Twilight and Sunset could pull it off. However, somehow their goals seemed to slip further and further away, if they let it. So, I guess, he said, we just go with the normal plan in the meantime, right? Sunset shrugged defeatedly before rising to all fours. Yeah, let's get back to work. Well, what do you think?
Here, we can't very well put this back together.
Do you think she'll be disappointed?
She has another one in her sack.
Yes, but another what?
Rainbow Dash groaned. She be coming too.
Poor thing. A mild pain shot through her back for what felt like the first time. Ugh, who's there? She asked as she attempted to open her eyes. A cloudless daytime sky greeted her. Several seagulls flew in lazy circles over her head, letting several squawk past between themselves. A slow and steady wind caught the debris from a crashing wave nearby. It coated her with a light spray. A brown earth pine trained his one good eye down on her. A strong swift assault waved it down as he drew in to carefully observe. He gave a satisfactory smirk, showing off his one golden tooth.
Welcome back. We reckon you were lost to Wavy Bones' knocker.
Hoofbeard? Rainbow Dash cried, bolting upright. Something pulled, snapping within her back. Letting out a sharp cry, she retreated, allowing herself to fall back into the warm, gritty sand.
Easy, lass, Hoofbeard said. Don't pull yourself out of shape.
You were floating out to sea when one of our Mentalhawk friends found you. You're very lucky, a female voice said. The Pegasus rolled over. A pony, whose tail made up her entire lower body, perched on top of the rock. She had never seen such a pony before. No, wait, she had. Faint memories started to return. You're... Rainbow Dash frowned. Help me out here. Joe, the mer pony said with a smile, indicating herself with her fin. Joe, yeah! I remember you now! Hoofbeard adjusted his bandana, then let some of the damn sweat trickle out before he sat back on the walk.
Actually, we sent the Mentalhawk back to track ye. Joe and I thought it was curious that you'd be crossing the ocean by yourself.
The Mare chuckled. And it seems to have paid off. You're lucky to be alive.
So then, mind telling an old shipmate about why you're here by yourself?
Rainbow Dash rolled over and tried to lift herself onto her hose. She moaned with each joint that popped, each with more pronunciation than the last. She tried flapping her wings, but they only went in every direction other than the one she wanted. Listen, thanks for saving me and all, she said as she brushed the buildup out of her coat and tried to shake out whatever clung in her mane. I mean, it'd be awesome to catch up with you and stuff, but I really have to be going. Where's my things at? She asked. Hoofbeard looked over at his lover with a cocked eyebrow, to which she nodded affirmatively.
You see, lass, your booty be over there, he said, pointing, but the catch is...
Rainbow Dash charged over to her saddlebags. She flew the flap open and dug her hose through it. She tossed several items into the sand, making a note as she went. She nodded when she threw a red spear onto the ground. Good, the gum's still there. She took out a jar containing a swirling magical vortex. She nodded again. There was one, and another, two. But she remembered three. Then she flipped the bag out and shook it, even and stuck into her head into it. Nothing. Where's the other one? She cried, throwing her saddlebag into the sand. I had 3 of these! Where's the other one? Hoofbeard shifted, reaching for something behind him.
I wager these be what you're looking for,
he said as he produced several small and jagged sets of glass, which glinted in the sunlight. Rainbow Dash backpedaled, tripping over herself. She made several squeaks, but nothing resembling a worded response came out.
I tried to tell ye.
It must have been when ye hit, he said, yanking his beard. But forget that. the jewel said, narrowing her eyes into concern. You are in no condition to fly. Rainbow Dash clenched her teeth. But I have to. No, no! She stammered. She slammed at the area around her, throwing up several clouds of sand and dust. No, 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 no! Ow! She screamed again, when it proceeded to blind her. Wolfbear let his muzzle fell against his hoof. Quiescently, he looked over at his lever. The mermaid downheartedly shook her head. The captain kicked some sand.
All right, lass. I have a proposition for ye. The truth we know where ye be off to.
The Pegasus went silent, rolling over on the ground, stifling her remaining grunts as he continued to wipe sand from her eyes.
Me ship be nearby. Jewel and I will take you where you need to go. But first,
cleared his throat with a loud grunt.
You tell us what's got you so worked up out here.
Through reddened eyes, she stared him down and went to spread her wings. But to her dismay, they, just like right before the crash, failed to respond. Her snarl faded as another thought came to her.
I have no idea where I am right now either.
She considered the two and frowned.
And besides, they're friends too, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, okay. Rainbow Dash began straightening up.
It's like this.
Applejack looked up once more at the beating sun. It pounded at her, and every pore screamed in protest. She sweated from places she had been previously unaware of, and fought the urge to wipe herself dry, took her to near capacity. The sand swam underneath her hose. At least, whenever it didn't try to jump onto the two sizes too big shawl across her back. Small dust clouds blew off tops of adjacent sand formations nearby. With the nearest settlement a few hours behind her, and the next probably a few more, she inwardly thanked Celestia that the sun would set soon. Reaching back into her saddlebag, she grabbed her map. The landscapes of dunes stretched for miles around, nonetheless.
I'll think I'm in the right spot,
she thought, taking back and forth between the map and her hose and the sand beneath her.
Or, at least I'm out of clues.
She replaced the map and took out the small glass jar. She peered at the swirling vortex of magical energy inside, and placed her hoof on the cap. As far as she could remember, all she had to do was let the spell out. It would do the rest. Sucking in her breath, she twisted. The energy contained shot out so quickly that she lost her grip on the jar. The energy crackled loudly in the air in front of her, burning parts of sand below via several arcing sparks. Applejack heard a zap before the ball of energy dove into the sand. Applejack stared down for long moments. The sand blew idly by, and the rest of the desert went on as if nothing had happened. A minute passed. She started sweating for other reasons. Nothing. Applejack faced hoof.
Oh, for lion's sakes!
Without warning, the sand in front of her heaved, jetting into the sky. A shining metal object shot into the air amidst the debris, captivated by a mass of sparks. Applejack had to lower her Stetson just to block out the light. A moment later, the dazzling display abruptly quit. The object plummeted to the ground, trailing smoke behind it, where it landed softly in the sand below. The Earth Pony looked down at the object, a small, opaque orb, easily a fraction of the size of a crystal ball in Canterlot. Its purple glow easily poked through the white-heart illumination of the desert afternoon. She hesitantly prodded. Nothing happened. Laying out a sigh of relief, she picked it up and gave it a once-over. So, she thought to herself, less here's a stone. Under the gray, clouded sky, the purple shine of the orb bathed in the entire surroundings of the stinging light. But, just as quickly as it came about, it quickly disappeared. Fluttershy's first instinct was to reach out and catch it as it fell. But even as it landed in her hose, she was mentally scolding herself, thinking probably it was the teeniest bit of a problem if maybe she tried to touch it without checking to make sure it was safe to touch. But she felt nothing. Aside from the warmth that it provided against her hose, Fluttershy didn't feel anything. She didn't feel anything trying to invade her body at any rate. She played with it for a few moments, giggling under her breath as she admired her features.
Kasumwe!
A voice behind her said. Fluttershy paled before crooking her neck over. A diminutive and bony griffin met her. The Red streak lines painted across Charlock's face, scrunched together as he narrowed his eyes. That said nothing of the piercing that had persisted beneath his beak. A second griffin, who dwarfed the first rival's figures.
He says that you did not say you would do that.
Fluttershy shrank and tried to hide behind her own mane. Then she took a good look around. The village's central square had stopped. Mothers held their kids close to their chests, and several others pressed themselves against the walls and ledges and hung to anything else they could find. She sunk down, trembling against the ground.
Oh, goodness,
Fluttershy whimpered.
I didn't know what would happen, but please don't hurt me.
Archer Griffin smiled.
He says, do not worry. We're only a little spook.
Fluttershy stopped shaking, but did not rise. Shark looked down at the hole in the ground. He dug at it with a claw, sampled the dirt with his beak, then shrugged. The griffin's roaring voice then crossed itself across the village, dispersing the crowd.
You are right. There was something underneath the village that we did not know about.
Fluttershy nodded.
Well, thanks, but I really didn't know.
We don't fault you.
She still covered her head.
Really? Oh, that's a relief.
She said, standing up.
You said you didn't know, remember?
Taking a brief glance toward the hole in the ground, she then bowed.
Thank you for your hospitality. I really, really appreciate it.
Charlock smiled.
You are welcome.
Spike shook his head and glanced over at the several calculus books on the side. He trailed over an intermediate algebra book, and then to the beginner's mathematics book in his hands. While shaking his head, he threw it over his shoulder and brought it back to where Sunset stood.
How did they do it?
He thought. He took a seat next to the ball, letting his eyes wander up toward the board, and Sunset put the finishing touches on yet another differential equation, whatever that was. Uh-huh, Twilight said as he flipped through another large tome, jotting down notes on a sheet of paper nearby. I had difficulties with that too at first. It's really interesting that they exist over there. I mean, they even act the same too. Sunset backed away from the chalkboard, shook her first with a short and pointed "Yes!" before she turned it over and looked at and took a seat next to the dragon. Flashing him a brief smile, the Amber Mare placed her hoof on the crystal ball. You should have seen me the first time I met Principal Celestia. I nearly flipped! Spike chuckled.
You two talking about Canterlot High?
Sunset nodded, breaking to stifle laughter. Yep. Oh yeah, Twilight giggled. I have so many questions about that. I'd love to do research on the nature of the two worlds. Well, Sunset kicked her hind legs around as he thought. We could probably do that. We do have the books to communicate with them after all. You're right, we do. Yeah, and they exist in both our worlds. All of them do. It's just so interesting that the two universes are so much alike. But they have their own little differences too. You know, I have to wonder, do you think there's a science version of me that's just really shy and doesn't have any friends? I would love to meet her one day. Me too. But they have their own little differences too. And, Spike offered, placing his claw on the ball, the best part is you can talk to each other, even if you can't go between them. The three of them shared voluminous laughs, before falling into complete silence. Sunset turned her head so she could look back at the chalkboard, twiddling her mane as she went. Her eyes wandered over the board for a few moments as she checked the parts as he had done. Twilight, meanwhile, turned the page in her book, and then briefly buried herself within the text. Spike vacantly drummed his claws against the floor, as he set his gaze on the ball itself. Now that I think about it, he thought as a chuckle escaped his lips. This stuff with the ball looks like what goes on with the mirror, don't it? Like Twilight's in another world right now. There wasn't a sound to be heard from between the three of them. Their devices carried on just like before. It's like Twilight's in another world right now. Spike blinked. Wait, he thought. Sunset slowly, shakily rose to all fours. A dry sweat formed on her brow as her gaze became transfixed. It couldn't be. Twilight's book slammed shut with an echoing thud. The Alcorn looked up to where she thought they were watching from. You don't think... Sunset swore as he backpedaled, bumping into the chalkboard, sending it crashing to the floor. You've got to be kidding me! You have to! There's no way! Spike cried, scrambling to his feet. She can't be in an alternate world, right? Sunset held a hoof over her mouth. Her eyes oscillated back and forth as the hairs on her mane and coat stood on their ends. Right? The dragon asked. Sunset didn't respond. Twilight ruffled her feathers as she stood up. Spike looked between the mare and the moon and the mare and the ball. His free hand rolled in a tight fist. But, she's right there! She yelled. That's Cantor up there! That's Twilight there! That's what our worlds look like! Silent stares were all received in return. He pointed to a ball. That's not an alternate world! Every time we go to some other world, and trust me, it just wasn't Canterlot High either, they've been totally different! It doesn't have to be totally different, Twilight answered coldly. It could be in something small. It could be the difference between your world and my world is a straight sign, or Mare could be a Pegasus, or Sunset swallowed and placed her hoof on the ball. Or it could be that our sets of coordinates are different. Twilight let out a long snort as he stalked over to the window again. She kicked at the floor, and her wings refused to sit comfortably at their sides. She summoned the ball after her when her magic spoke softly. Yes, that would do it. It's entirely possible I live in an Equestria, one that's like yours in every way. Except that my coordinates are not your coordinates. The baby dragon tightened his grip on the ball and growled. Sunset Shimmer shivered without a discernible end. Her teeth chattered, her eyes fluttered, and her movements were jerky. The mare slipped off the ball and retreated, backing away one long and strange step at a time. Finally, she turned, then she ran. She ran down the stairs faster than Spike could resist her. She ran without looking back, the sound of her charge echoing throughout the tower, only to be broken by the loud boom of a wooden entry door. Twilight slapped a hoof against her face. I need to get out of this tower. He did a double take. He took one step toward the stairs, then another towards the desk. Stairs, desk. Twilight! I'll be right back, okay? Okay, she replied. Spike set the ball down on the floor before sprinting down the stairs. Spike barged through the door at the end of the hall. The room he entered dwarfed all the others. The ceiling loomed several floors overhead, supported by several pillars, as still and silent as sentinels, both of which served to volley the slam of the door around the room several times over. The casket on the altar was 3 days gone. Now in its place, Sunset Summer whirled around. Don't come any closer! She barked as he stepped back towards the window. Sunset! He cried, running across the room. Don't come any closer, Spike! Sunset, talk to me! Sunset stopped on the floor and charged something on her horn. Go away! The dragon stood on a long red carpet leading to the altar. He almost fell forward, but managed to keep himself. The words clicked somewhere. He threw it into himself as a shiver ran down his body. Those words. Spike shook his head as he balled into his fist. No! I'm not going to make the same mistake with you that I did with Twilight! Sunset took herself back. Her wide expression edged across revolted features. Lighting her horn steadied himself as he considered himself at length. The dragon swallowed. Please, Sunset. I just want to know what's wrong. Please, tell me. Sunset's frown grew even deeper before she snorted and averted her gaze. I can't deal with all this. I don't know how. Spike nodded solemnly, but did not respond. I don't know what I'm doing. I want to bug something. I want to curl up into a ball and cry myself to sleep. I want to hurt myself. I want to hurt someone else. I just want to leave. You know what I think? Sunset paused a second in a large breath. I think I actually don't know what I want. The mare lifted a hoof to her mouth and chewed on for a few moments. Is this what it feels like when someone dies? She asked. Spike hesitated. She swiveled around and stared daggers at him. Is this what happens when someone dies? The baby dragon stood rooted to the spot for many moments. I don't know, he thought. He twirled his claws together. This is the first time it's happened to me either. What do I tell her? He swallowed. Sunset, The mayor gritted her teeth. Say we succeed, Sunset said with a huff. Say we get all the stones together we want, and we end up saving Twilight's life. But that Twilight in the ball might be from an alternate world. So even if we save her, our Twilight is still dead, and I can't deal with that! Twilight dying was bad enough, but I'm making everything worse because I can't let go! She exclaimed, stomping the floor. I'm driving myself insane because I can't let go of the fact that she's dead, and I'm dragging you and everybody else down with me. Do you hear me? I screwed up everything because I can't let go. Her horn glowed ablaze, and her eyes turned white hot. Her mane in all directions because it glowed increasingly brighter. And what happens if another one of my friends suddenly dies, huh? How bad are things going to get then? Sunset, no! Spike thought, no, don't do this. Please don't do this. Sunset's aura now likened her to a miniature sun. This is what happens when you have friends! She boomed. Then maybe I'd better off not having friends! I want to go back to being the old me! Oh, my Celestia, Spike thought. He took a wayward step before ducking underneath his arms. What was he going to do? Burn him alive? Hit him with a mega spell? What? I'm not going to make a Fallout Equestria joke. I have no plans of making one. Throw him out the window! Call Little Pip! Okay, come here. You gotta get a little bit. No, Trixie, leave me alone! The option for talking, feeble before, now shriveled up entirely. He steeled himself. But nothing came. He peered up from underneath his arms. What he saw instead was a statue of a mare on the altar. She had her hose glued to her mouth like she just uttered a blasphemous joke in front of Celestia's face. The color drained from her muzzle, and bit by bit she started to sink. I don't mean that, she said as she began to hyperventilate. I don't mean that. Spike sighed and dropped his shoulders. Sunset. I don't mean that. She quivered as she struck backwards. I don't mean that. I don't mean that. She took a step forward. Sunset! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sunset Shimmer! Spike yelled, his voice cracking. Listen to me! The mare cringed, trembling like a leaf in the wind. But where her quick succession of breaths had echoed throughout the room before, now she lay deathly silent. The dragon let out a long sigh and approached her, testing his first steps to see if she would shy away before picking up the pace. He collided with her. His arms took her into a tight and cohesive embrace. He didn't even let go as Sunset swayed to and fro from within his grasp, sucking in several short breaths as she went, till eventually both began to subside. I'm here, okay? The mare, her head on top of him, let out a long and weary sigh. He struck her back like he would have done it with the cake's toddlers. How do I deal with this, Spike? She said with a broken voice. Spike shook his head. I'm sorry, Sunset. I just don't know. So what do I do? Spike, you're the only friend I have here. What do I... The dragon blinked. But I'm not! Spike interrupted as he pulled away. He grabbed her bright cheeks, fixing his gaze with hers. You have a few friends here, too, remember? Sunset flinched, looking around the room like she was searching for something. You mean them? No! Those are Twilight's friends, not mine. But they are your friends! No, they're not! Yes, they are! Spike replied with a harder voice from before. Sure, maybe they're not as close to you as they are with Twilight. Maybe they aren't the same as your friends from Canterlot High. But they still consider you a friend. Trust me when I say this, but we're all happy that you're here. Sunset snoring. I don't know. It just doesn't feel that way. Spike chuckled across his arms. We're all in a bad way, that's all. Sunset turned a shade of red and averted her gaze. She opened her mouth to speak, shut it tight again, then shook her head. Even if they are my friends, they aren't here right now. I still don't have any answers to this, she said, hiding herself behind her host. He frowned. No, I guess not. The dragon paused. He tapped his foot against the floor, drummed his fingers against his arm while turning mental wheels. Long, crooked response came to him. But I know somebody who does! The mayor peeked up at him pleasantly. Spike's gaze turned to a tower outside one of the windows. He followed up towards the top, was stretched out outside the frame. And, really? I think she'd like to talk to you too. She bit her lip, looking over at the tower as well. She wiped a drop from her eyes and nodded solemnly. I guess you're right. It's probably time. I probably should have done it days ago. Spike nodded. Just not right now, she said, twisting the curl in her mane. Why don't we go back for now and get some more work done before the sun goes down? Spike grinned. Sounds good to me, he said before turning toward the door. Behind him, the mayor gave one last look at the tower outside the window, and then followed suit. Rarity, the unicorn, took one last glance over the side of the carriage at the hole in the mud, before humming fervently.
That was less hose-on than I expected, but I'm glad to take it.
She leaned back against the seat and took a look at the stone beside her. Glossy and vibrant like an amethyst, free from pockmarks and scratches and internal tessellations. Like the whole stone had been cut uniformly into a perfect, unindented spear it was now. Rarity thought thrice about trying to cut into something usable, after she had gotten the information she wanted out of course. Summoning the thought, she leaned forward and fished the saddlebag onto the cozy silk carpet floor. She took out a small pamphlet map.
Only 100 miles north. That's convenient,
she thought.
Is everything okay back there?
A deep voice called out from the front of the cart. A ballsy stallion looked back at her with soft, rounded eyes. The crusted mud that clung to his hooves, accentuated by his shiny black coat. The concern out of the crock of his eyebrows almost went unnoticeable against the vague hint of a smile, perpetually plastered against his muzzle. Rarity leaned forward, rested her gaze on everything from a part of her face.
Oh, everything's peachy, Mr. Range Rider. Absolutely delightful.
I'm glad. But maybe it's time we left.
Rarity thought she heard the slow and viscous burst of a dirty bubble. Looked around again. She frowned at the trees, which looked like they would fall under the weight of the moss and drown in the soft, running earth at any moment.
Oh, yes, quite so.
The carriage slid forward as the wheels broke out into muddy moles around them. Range Rover's hooves slipped here and there, prompting him to dig deeper into the mush. Soon enough, they gained enough pace that the carriage practically pulled itself. Still, she worried, for a mud stain under the upholstery just would not do. She had enough of mind to chart it for the Grand Cavalry Gala. Instead, its evenly painted surfaces and listless padding contrasted the dank and grimy environment. She slapped herself.
What was I thinking?
So, there was a spectacle there, he said. What was all that you needed to do?
Rarity regarded the stallion once more.
Oh, right, that's what I was thinking, she thought with a smile. Yes, of course, I got exactly what I wanted.
Well, if that's the case, he said, then maybe it's time for me to take you back.
That molasses. I simply must keep this one for a while longer. She cleared her throat. I'll give you an extra 100 bits if you take me towards Grazing Gourds.
Well, you see,
He called back, slight waver in her voice.
there's 100 miles north of here.
Busted. Besides, you don't have to take me all the way there. I'll be able to fence it off.
Shine shrugged. Raising goods it is.
You are most kind, darling. Thank you.
With a happy sigh, the mare reached into her saddlebag, procured a pair of cucumber silences, to recline against the velvet cushion.
I'm so lucky my two stones are nearly next to each other. Who would have thought?
Normally, as Sunset remembered, the pair of guards would have flanked the large ornate door. Tonight, however, they directly barred it.
The princess has already made her position clear.
One of them said with an indifferent scowl.
You'll have to come back clear.
Sunset simmer shifted uncomfortably.
No, please. I have to see her. It's
Very important.
We are very sorry, miss. You'll have to come back later.
She grit her teeth together. It was only a door. A teleport-proof door, but a door all the same. And separated from her desire. A few feet away, but somehow incomprehensibly out of reach. It had to be Providence. Somehow, even after several dreams in the night, this was what she wanted. She wanted the door to be closed. Sunset took a few steps backwards in retreat. Besides, she had no way she would get a favorable reaction. A few more steps back, and she'd be on her way out of the tower. It was the perfect ending. The guard looked over at Sunset Sommer.
Not even you, Princess Luna.
Sunset paused and whirled around to see a dark blue Alicorn, looking back down at her nose. The air was bent around the mayor's very presence, caused Sunset to buckle by the slightest bit. Princess Luna smirked. "Oh, I am not here to see my sister." The stallion in front of the door frowned.
"Then I must ask you both to leave!"
His body glowed with a dark blue aura, as he, as well as the guard next to him, were swept off their hooves. "Help!
Silence you!"
Luna hissed, as he magically shook the pair for good measure. Then she turned her attention to the amber unicorn and winked. "Go on through. She's waiting." Sunset looked back and forth between the Alicorn princess and her guard turned captives and frowned. "Oh, for Celestia's sake! She just had to do that, didn't she? Oh, good. Oh, good." She took a step towards the door, then 2 steps back. After taking one last fleeting glance at the Alicorn, Sunset sighed. The flare of her horn and the massive frame creaked open, casting several times on the hinge as it turned. Cautiously, she entered. The crackling fireplace and sprawling velvet bed made her face first. Her eyes then drew to the night sky that patterned the walls, completed by a tapestry depicting a shooting star. A clock on the wall counted each passing second with a pronounced ticking noise. Her father screamed that this was, in fact, Celestia's room, and not that of her sister. Yet, even as everything demanded the same recollection as the rest of her castle, Sunset drew a blank. She tried and tried and tried some more. No matter how she looked at it, the room was new to her. A large golden neck ornament and complimentary shoes watched her from a rack on the back of the edge of the desk. An equally regal tiara guarded them from the desk itself, and Sunset regarded the very placement of the objects and swallowed. Something moved through an archway on the side as she swiveled. Then Sunset's simmer froze. Princess Celestia geeked back at her. Even her mane had ground to a halt. Celestia inched out of the archway and came to a halt at the edge of the carpet. 1 billion thoughts ran through Sunset's head. Several pre-rehearsed conversations fought their way to the top, but all fell to the wayside. The second hand on the clock nearby took several eternities to stagger along. She could hardly breathe, yet somehow the need to breathe wasn't there. Several years wound about in a painfully slow manner, coalescing through several emotions as they went. Princess Celestia now stood in front of her. Not principal, princess. Imposing, pristine, powerful, just as a princess should be. Petrified, bare, incredulous, just like herself. Sunset could see that the mare in front of her was trembling ever so slightly, just like she was. Maybe the mare on the opposite side of the room wasn't Princess Celestia. Maybe, somehow, just for now, she was simply Celestia. But as she remembered, Celestia was angry at her. The Alicorn took a deep breath. Sunset? Sunset flinched. Celestia? Celestia inched forward. My stars, she said, her voice barely a whisper. You've returned. You've returned to me. Sunset flinched again. She stood, even more wide-eyed than before. It couldn't be. It couldn't be true. But it was true. Never in her wildest dreams, not after what she did. And then Sunset let a tear fly down her face, and then another. Sunset surged forward. She galloped into a full sprint. She bounded straight into Celestia's receiving embrace. The sound of the door closing behind her went through one ear and out the other. The two of them exchanged jubilated shouts and bawling explanations before they settled into weeping into each other. Oh. The fire crackled as it danced back and forth between the two of them. Sunset watched as the wood splintered, then fell apart. She dug her hose deeper into the mattress below her, nuzzled herself deeper into Celestia's side, and let out a dissonant sigh. Celestia responded by curling tighter around her former student. As the flames continued to reflect within her eyes, Sunset bit her lip. Who would have thought there was a chamber down here? Sunset hummed. I still cannot believe that it was right under my muzzle, and I didn't even know about it. She fired her horn, levitating a new piece of wood out of the chute onto the side of the fireplace. Celestia gingerly fed into the flames, to which they responded with new vigor.
This entire series of events went under my muzzle. You really had no clue?
Sunset asked, looking up at her mentor.
You would think, for all the time I have been here, I would notice these things.
Celestia gravely shook her head.
But I did not. Not even a little.
Celestia closed her eyes.
There, she began, was one instance that struck me as odd. It was after I had lowered the sun. I was reading when I looked at the tower she was staying in. It was dark at the time, but just for a few seconds, the whole tower lit up with a bright white light. But
the Alcorn hugged her head.
Curse me, I did not even think anything of it. I received the news an hour later.
Celestia gazed at the tower in question.
Goodness, what was she doing in those last few days?
At that, Sunset let off a fragment as the dude chuckled.
Yeah.
As he turned her gaze back to the blaze in front of them, somehow, the flames took a form of Twilight's face, and Sunset sighed with a discontent frown.
And now I'm seeing things. I must be losing it. Princess?
Sunset asked tremendously.
The Alcorn smiled. Just Celestia's fine. I think I need help.
Celestia kept a smile.
What would you need help with?
Sunset simmered and shrunk into herself.
I...
She gave Celestia a few gleaming glances, but averted her gaze each time.
I can't get over her. Oh? I can't deal with the fact that she's gone. I've never lost any pony before. I don't... She took a deep breath. I can't deal with this. It hurts. I'm not sure having friends is worth this.
Celestia regarded her former student as a long frown spread across her face. Slowly, she let her eyes wander around the room before she settled on a tree in a corner. Humming affirmatively, Celestia flared a horn, levitating over a small shard that had dangled from one of the tree's branches.
Sunset Simmer, she said, let me tell you a story that I think I may help you with this problem.
The unicorn looked up attentively.
Once upon a time, there was a great king who was loved by many. He was very adept and brought happiness to all his people.
Celestia narrowed her eyes and twirled the shard mirror about.
But dark forces seek to destroy everything. Slowly and slowly he watched as his world crumbled. But, given the chance to right what went wrong, he practically leapt upon it. He gave his mind, body, and soul so that his world might be saved.
Celestia let out a long, exasperated sigh, turning her gaze into the fire.
He sacrificed himself? Sunset asked. Yes. Just like Twilight did? Yes. Sunset shook her head. But I've never heard about this king. He's never been in any books, and I know.
Sunset quickly took her head, noting that now Celestia wore the largest grimace he had ever seen.
I never told you about him. It was a well-guarded secret. Plus, this was very recent. In fact, Twilight Sparkle was there to witness it. And...
Celestia swallowed, allowing a wayward tear to drip down her face.
I was also there to watch it. Every long and painful moment of it. And that memory haunts me this day.
Sunset tensed up, trying to push her next question down her throat. After a few minutes, she yielded to her curiosity.
Who was he?
Celestia calmly shook her head.
For 1,000 years, he was my lover.
Sunset flinched. The answer surprised her, but somehow it didn't, of course. Dwight Alcorn brought the shard to her face.
This piece of a magic mirror is the only thing I have to remember him by. Magic mirror? Like the one that leads back to my world?
She scanned the shard as Celestia's magical grasp.
But that's just a fragment, so the mirror she's talking about is...
Sunset gasped.
Broken. He's in another world, and he's as good as gone. But how lucky am I?
Celestia said.
Huh?
Celestia laughed. The sort of long laugh that shook her entire body.
How lucky am I that I had some ponies in my life that make saying goodbye so hard?
Sunset blinked.
But you're not... Of course not, Sunset. While it may not be the ending I was looking for, I would endure it a million times over if I could see him again. And, when it comes down to it, perhaps that is the price I pay for having known him. But I, for the life of me, cannot imagine a life where I would never met him. That would be far worse. The memories I have of him are far too precious. So, Sunset said, are you saying it's worth it? At that, Celestia draped her hoof across Sunset's back and gave her a grin. Always. Well, Sunset thought, what would my life be without my friends? What would have happened if I never met them? She let off a faint smile. Nothing good, I guess. I'd be in a pretty bad place. Maybe I don't ever want to go back to a life without them. Sunset giggled, before nestling herself into her mentor's bosom. I guess you're right. Looks like I still have a lot to learn, huh? The Unicorn chuckled before turning her gaze back to the fire. How right Spike had been. Already Sunset could feel the figure from before coursing through her again. The sensation was satisfying. For once, something in the question had gone right. More right than she could have hoped. How could she describe it? Elation at being proven wrong? Relief that she had been forgiven? It nearly didn't make any sense. After throwing everything in Celestia's face, being in the same room had long left her conscious. Just by showing up, she had been forgiven. Was that really the case? Maybe she had been forgiven long before Hoof. That didn't make sense. Parts of her didn't want to forgive herself for the past. How could somebody else forgive her? Only a parent in her could do that. Sunset hummed. Celestia was better than her. Looking up, Sunset noticed that, for the first time since they had met her, Celestia appeared to her radiant like the sun itself. Sunset then decided there was nobody else he would rather be with. Celestia? Yes. Sunset smiled, turning a small shade of red. Do you think that, I could spend the night with you? Maybe? A little bit of water welled in Celestia's eyes. Her smile, uncharacteristically, showed the slightest amount of teeth. Celestia leaned down and nuzzled her stone on her cheek. Of course. That would be delightful. The two of them shared a laugh that echoed through the night. Sunset paused. Well, then I should probably let Spike know, she said before giggling. He might get worried. Actually, Celestia said with a grin, I could take care of that. Spike gagged, and then mounted a large burp. A letter materialized in the air in front of him. The dragon tested out of the air without a second thought. Carefully unfolding, and let his eyes go down the page. As he did, he toggled over to the study area's large sprawling window. Then looked up at Celestia's tower with a grin. Way to go, Sunset. Rolling the note up, he doubled back toward the crystal ball that sat on top of the desk and switched it with the note. I'm gonna go to bed here in a second. The mayor looked up and yawned as he placed the first last piece of papers on the top of the desk. That's all done, so I think I will too. Spike moved toward the stairs, intent on taking the ball to his bed, like he did the previous couple of nights, but wasn't going to make 2 steps before he paused again. Hey, Twilight? He asked. How did I do today? Twilight hummed. Spike, I think you've done a fantastic job over the past few days. Spike turned his claws against the ball. Do you think I've done well, like, for myself? Twilight smiled. Of course! Why do you ask? Spike looked up at Celestia's tower and smiled. Well, he thought, maybe it's because I got this figured out after all. Maybe I don't, but I can do that. I can do this. Spike chuckled. It's nothing. Good night, Twilight. Mayor looked upward and smiled. Good night, Spike. Taking great care, he slowly set the crystal ball down on the desk. It fed a smile into it for a few moments before it slid away. He walked down the stairs, without Twilight, with a small smile on his face.